Yes, I am.
That was number 2, 3 weeks ago. Number 1 was 19 years ago. Completely back on the
What have you done yourself?
I've actually just had a hip operation. Stand up. Just stand up.
Okay, everyone got their seats? Right, get things underway. We're running a little bit late. We have the door closed. Okay, on behalf of the Ruapehu Ski Club Committee, it is my great pleasure to welcome everyone to the 110th Annual General Meeting. It is wonderful to see so many friendly faces and catch up with members who I haven't seen for a while. I would especially like to thank those of you who have come from out of Auckland to be present, and to those that are joining us on the live stream. Thank you to Matt, who's for all his work setting this up. And a lot of you probably don't realise, but Matt also does a lot of the IT stuff for the club. A lot of that stuff that nobody ever sees, but all these magical things happen with the website. And if, yeah, Damon calls them IT support. Team support. There's lots of late night messages going backwards and forwards with the monitoring of the buildings. Anyway, I hope you've all been able to catch up with friends and can continue to do so at the conclusion of the meeting when tea and coffee will be available. I'd also like to say a thank you to Alan Graham, who's with us on the live stream. He's writing his article for the Bulletin as he's watching. I'd like to thank him because with the times that we're going through, he has very kindly offered to pay for the last couple of bulletins and for most of the bulletins for this year. So it's much appreciated. I'd like to thank Marion for organising this evening and for standing in as secretary for this meeting tonight. Are we going to have a microphone at all, Matt, or do people just stand up? Okay, so when you stand up and speak from the floor, I would ask that when you speak, please state your name for the record. Please remember, when we call for proposers and seconders, you must be a senior and a current financial member. We are still short of a secretary and a club captain for the committee. I'll be asking for nominations from the floor, and there are also nomination papers at the desk. Please consider if you could fill these positions on the committee. You'll need to also be a senior current financial member. Sadly, over the last 12 months, many of us have said goodbye to family and RSC friends. I would ask you all to stand for 1 minute's silence. It is a time for us to remember these important people and the impact that they had on our lives, RSC, and to protect with the families who are adjusting to life without them. We have 2 clipboards at the door, one to put your name on as attendees and one for apologies. So if anybody hasn't done that, make sure you get your name on there. We've also got a raffle for a 65-inch television that we've had for a wee while, but it's still in the box. Yeah, it's still technically. We acquired it when we signed up with Trustpower a few years ago. It's massive and nobody really wants to carry it up to the lodge. So we thought this would be a good way of getting some funds for the club and moving it out of our factory. Right, Peter Brady, our patron, sends his apologies for tonight, but he's sent a greeting that Bernard's going to share with us now. Thanks, Bernard.
Well, Peter sent me through an email and just asked if I could read this out to the meeting this evening. I regret that I'm unable to attend tonight's AGM. However, I'd like to convey a few words to the meeting, if I may, and I've asked Bernard to read this out to you. RSC has 110 years of history. It's had 110 years of ups and downs. We've had good snow years, wonderful skiing, great fellowship. We've developed wonderful new initiatives like Ski for Life, and I believe that we have honoured all those stated 18 objects and goals of the club as detailed in our written constitution. But we have had...
Oh yeah, that's something I forgot to
Yeah,
say,
one of the
wasn't
kids
it?
has left
Put
your
your
phone
phones
on.
on silent.
But we have had bad snow years and some very bad snow years. We've had sewerage issues, insurance issues, power cost issues, building compliance issues, and of course recently we've had the COVID problem, and climate change worries are presently the question and the worry of who will be running the facilities for ski fields on the mountain. For 110 years we've dealt with those issues as they arose. We've built, we've altered, we've updated, we've maintained, redecorated our buildings as we have seen necessary. We've dealt with compliance requirements, sewerage upgrades, other matters that have been thrust upon us. We've found answers to major cost issues such as the power. Thank you, Damien. We've dealt with issues as they arise, such as there was a time to employ cooks in our buildings, and there have been times to pull back as now due to cash flow issues and uncertainty. I believe that RSC has done well. This has been achieved by the club's spirit of always working hard to do what is best for the club and for those who will be the club in the future times. We've all pulled together in just so many ways, and I think you'll agree that we have done and are doing that very well. You here tonight need only reflect on what you've done and what you're doing now to understand the spirit that we collectively hold as members of RSC. We presently are facing a situation that we know is very serious, and we worry for the future of the mountain, ski fields, and of course our club. Our history shows that Ski Club has always been up to challenges it has faced. And Catherine, I commend your present committee for making the necessary hard and difficult decisions that you have made, and may yet have to make in the times ahead. Catherine, this is a difficult time for you, your committee, and the club we love. May I wish you and everybody well. Peter Brady, patron.
Thank you. So item 1 on our agenda is the apologies. Do we have any further apologies? I assume everyone's written something or with friends and family down? No further apologies? Would somebody like to move that the apologies be accepted? William?
Oh, it's Chibi's.
Oh, you're going to take Debbie? Okay. Do you want to be the seconder then? All those in favour of accepting the apologies, raise your hand. Any against? That's carried. So item 2 on our agenda is the confirmation of the minutes for the 2022 AGM. Now, I'm just going to start. We have one motion from last year, it may have been my fault, that was not voted on. So I'd like to do that now, and that was when we proposed that Phil Thomas and Richard Nelson to become life members. We didn't actually vote on it. When we went back to the minute, and actually when we went back to the live stream recording, it was not voted on. So I therefore propose that we accept the recommendation from the Honours Committee that Phil Thomas and Richard Nelson become life members. Can I have a seconder for that? John?
Yep.
All those in favour, raise your hand. Any against? That's carried. Right. We'll move on to the minutes. Would someone who was present at the 2022 AGM please move that the minutes of the AGM held on Wednesday the 15th of June 2022 be taken as read?
Judy Spade.
Judy Spade. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Richard Nelson. Do we have any corrections?
Just one from me.
Oh. Could have told me.
Sorry, it's just jumped off the page at me. It says income in 2021 was 102k with XXX bunk nights.
Yes.
That should read 2,514.
It was X-rated.
That's what's 2,514.
Okay, is there any further corrections? Okay, in that case, all those in favour of accepting the minutes from 2022, please raise your hand. Any against? That's carried. Right, item number 3 on the agenda is the adoption of the annual reports, accounts and auditors' reports. So I would like to hand over to our treasurer, Sonia, for the presentation of the annual reports, accounts and auditors' report to the 31st of December 2022. Take it away, Sonia.
Okay, so I would like to move that the financial report for the year ended December 31st, 2022 be adopted and the auditor's report in the respect of the same be received. And we have a seconder. Jimmy? Okay, so as you will all have seen in the annual accounts, 2022 has been an incredibly difficult year for the club. After 2 years in a COVID environment, we geared up for what we hoped would be a brilliant ski season, with all 4 of our buildings open and 4 chefs employed. The Snow Gods apparently had other ideas. We were anticipating and budgeting for 6,500 to 7,000 bunk nights. So unfortunately the snow didn't fall and the Rangatira opened slightly later once the snowpack was established, and then the rain came through and washed it away and it never returned. So we had access issues to our upper level buildings for the rest of the season. We made the call to terminate the contracts for the hut chef at that point, and then we made the call a little bit later to terminate the Tūroa chef's contract once it looked like Tūroa was also going to be having issues. While there was actually good snow at Whakapapa and there was some great skiing on the upper mountain, the adverse media commentary and the general discussions seemed to be that the snow was not there, so people did not show. We had 2,015 bunk nights last year. To put that in context, that was less than we did in the 2 years previously with COVID restrictions and with Auckland locked down, so it was incredibly disappointing. We also for the first time saw the chalet as our most popular building due to the access issues up to the lodge. So the result for the 2022 financial year was a deficit of $87,049. And this is the second year now we have run a deficit. So our cash position has been eroded, and we currently have a total cash on hand of $263,520. However, of that, 76,000, a little over, is your money, not ours, that is sitting in your deposit accounts. So we actually have less than $200,000 in reserve. Accommodation income was $86,722 from the 2015 bunk nights. which compared to 102,000 from 2,514 bunk nights the year before, and well down from the 278,000 and 6,815 bunk nights we had in 2019. Our average income per bunk night for 2022 was just over $43, which was slightly higher than the year before, where it sat at just over $40. And this was a reflection of our summer-winter mix, where we had lower summer usage in 22 than we did in 21. Subscription income in 2022 was $163,831, and of that, just over $14,000 remained uncollected at year end. So if you note in the accounts, there was a provision for that to be written off as a doubtful debt, because we may or may not receive that this year. Subsidies from the government, we were able to claim subsidies for COVID sick leave for those chefs that came down with COVID, and also our admin officer. And we did claim one resurgence payment where we had a drop in income compared to the previous year. So that was $7,017, but in 2021 we were able to claim over $40,000, which helped with our balancing slightly. In terms of our expenses, while there are a few of our expenses that are tied in with our occupation levels, most of our expenses are well and truly fixed. And our largest cost after our salaries and wages is insurance. We made the decision last year to move to a self-insuring model for 2 of our buildings. This has seen our insurance expense drop from $71,000 in 2021 to $64,297 in 2022. This is a reflection of 6 months at the lower rate, so we've actually budgeted for slightly less than that for next year. And that insurance is up for renewal in July. So that is it from me. If anybody has any questions from the floor in regards to the finances. No? Oh, Jim.
Which buildings are uninsured then?
We have moved to a self-insuring model for the hut and for the chalet. So we've said Turoa and the lodge are our primary buildings, and we've insured those. We have also put aside the $30,000 that we would have spent on insuring those 2 buildings into a separate term deposit. It's not reflected in the accounts this year because it didn't happen until February when we had money roll off term deposit, but we've now put that money aside to hopefully ring fence it should there be, and we will continue to add to that pool for if something does go wrong with either of those buildings and we need to either remediate or remove. Any other questions?
That's not really a question. So William Mead, but you know, we ran $104,000 cash deficit last year. We've got less than $200,000 in the bank. You know, ignoring funds that are attributable to members. Yeah, so we need to actually build the support and turn up.
Absolutely.
We can't continue on the street, otherwise
bunk nights.
we're gonna run out of money to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Sonia, when you do your bunk nights, it's summer and winter? It's
Yes.
total bunk nights?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We phase it obviously through the summer months, and the average bunk night is also phased in terms of the budgeting. But we work on a total bunk nights for the year. Yes.
In your insurances, do you have directors and officers insurances in place?
Yes. Yes.
Damon looks after that, yes.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, public liability and D&O, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's quite cheap actually compared to the rest of it. It's about $1,000.
But given the fine people sitting at the top table there, I think it's very important.
Yeah.
Okay. There are no other questions. We had a second for that. So I would like to move this. Who's got it?
Do you want to move it or?
Yep, I'd like to move that the accounts be adopted. So
Okay.
if there is no further discussion, I ask that all those in favour of adopting the financial reports for the year ended 31 December 2022 and receiving the auditor's report, please say aye.
Aye. Any against? You go.
Any against? And that's passed. Thank you.
What's this?
All right. Okay, I've got more. So the next item on the agenda is the appointment of the auditor. So I would like to move that RSC retain Hart & Co as our auditors for 2023. Could I please have a seconder? Yep, Robin Dallas. All those in favour?
Sorry, can I make a comment on that?
Yep.
I would like the committee to look at new auditors for the following year. I was absolutely appalled to see that they issued a
Qualified audit report.
qualified audit over a stock take that they haven't done or hasn't been done with the auditor present for 110 years. So,
Yeah, I must say I was very disappointed in a qualified audit report, especially off the back of it was just a stock take that they had an issue in not being in attendance for. So yes, I will investigate, and the committee will investigate.
Do you want to clarify what our stock take is for the members that may not be aware?
Okay, so the stock take is the value of the inventory that is currently sitting in the freezers and the pantries at the lodge and the hut, and very minimal amounts at Turoa. The 2022 year, we did have a large increase in the value of our inventory because we had stocked the buildings at Truck Week with the anticipation of 6,500, 7,000 bunk nights, full buildings, and everybody eating their way through the freezers. When we got to the end of the season, all of the freezers up there are full, so now the inventory is sitting at over $9,000. So that was why they raised that issue, and that also that it was, we didn't notify them of the date and they weren't able to have somebody in attendance, which would actually mean climbing the mountain for them. So
Albany's a long way from the mountain.
and a very large expense claim on the audit as well. Yeah. So yes,
Maybe we
will
could live
investigate.
stream us doing it.
Call it prosperity. There was an audit, there was a methodology. Basically, the stock take was taken, and then we valued it as per the cost of the items on the bid food. It was done fairly exhaustively. So I'm happy with the methodology that we have in place for our year-end stock takes. But the auditors had a small issue with it this time round.
The audit fee is only 3.5K, so
Yes.
it's not a big number. You're not going to buy much for that.
No. Okay. So where did we get to with that?
So there was nobody against. John just raised a point of order, I suppose you'd call it. Yes. So if there is nobody against, then that is carried. All right, me again.
Yes.
Okay, so as I've just explained in terms of the expenses, most of our expenses are fixed. We do have some variation in some of them. The model that any club like ours should be running is that our subscription income should cover our fixed costs, and then our accommodation income throughout the year should cover those variable expenses such as salaries and food and the increase in power above the base rates. Our subscriptions are not covering our fixed costs at the moment, and with inflation that's only getting worse. So the committee is recommending for your approval that due to continued inflationary pressure, the annual subscription rates for 2024 be increased to $269.57 plus GST for senior members, so that comes to $310. And for all other membership categories, that it is increased to $113.04 plus GST, which brings all the other categories to $130 per annum. I would like to move this recommendation. Can I have a seconder?
John
Ben. Any discussion? Questions? Not enough?
We had a tip.
We have traditionally only moved subs every few years, but we've found that that seems to be a bigger jump, so we'd like to, going forward, look at a smaller increase every year rather than doing a big jump every second one. All those in favour? Aye. Any against? And that is carried.
Thank you, Sonia. Now we're moving on to item 6, which is nomination of the patroness Barbara Scully and patron Peter Brady. RSC is very fortunate to have Barbara Scully and Peter Brady, life members, agree to be our patroness and patron for the next year. The role of patron and patroness is many. They can be guide, mentor and sounding board for the President and the committee and provide practical advice and wise counsel, particularly if there are any constitutional matters to be considered. It is therefore with much pleasure that I nominate Barbara Scully as patroness and Peter Brady as patron of RSC for 2023-2024. Could I please have a seconder? Oh, who was first then? I don't know, it's Jim or Richard. Jim. Oh, that was the seconder, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I
maybe moved it. Yeah.
All those in favour? Aye. Any against? That's carried. So now we move on to the election of committee. But let's see. Before handing over to the acting secretary to declare the committee for 2023-24, I would like to farewell several committee members. Those being Louise Blair, Paula Cooper, Denise Stitchburn, Lisa Fitzsimmons and Kevin Schulcher. Thank you for your contribution to RSC and being part of the committee for all the work you have done over the past years. I would also like to thank all other committee members for their tireless efforts over the last year. We have achieved much and had to deal with much, and it is through your dedication and help that we have such a great club. Thank you also to the spouses, and in these days we get we get the whole package with the spouse as well on the committee, and partners of committee members. Your contributions in supporting the role of committee members is often unseen but not forgotten. And I'd have to say a big thank you to this one here for being my sounding board, and every time I come up with a crazy idea or he comes up with a crazy idea, we bounce them off each other. A special thank you to our past presidents for their input and continuing support, because I've rung a few of them. And to our patron and patroness, thank you for your knowledge and input. Sadly, Sienna is no longer with us as administration officer. She finished with us at the end of April and was presented with flowers on her last day. She has been instrumental in increasing our summer bookings. Like, we got 14,000 worth of summer bookings this year. We had 6,000 last year. And the increase is really due to the effort that she's put in. And we need to be able to increase the summer bookings. I'd like, please use the buildings in the summer. They're still there. They're still, you know, the chalet and tour. There's great summer things to do down at Ruapehu. So she's produced she's produced handbooks for the chalet and tour, so that makes it easier for people who go in who don't know the process in the buildings. Everything's written in there. So my final thanks is all to all the club members for all your encouragement and support and help. Thank you. Now, Marion, are you
my turn, is it?
Yeah, it is your turn. This is where we need to go to.
Well, before I announce the committee leader, I just want to acknowledge in particular the hard work of this one and this one, which I've been observing at first hand for the last month or so as we nut through all the things that have to be brought together for the AGM. but ours are countless. The angst reached a crisis point on occasion. And yeah, we couldn't do without them. They've done a wonderful job, both of you. Thank you very much indeed. Now, I'm going to announce those who are on the committee for next year. We obviously didn't have enough nominations to fill all the places, so we've got empty nomination forms over there. And in particular, we need a president. Oh, no. Sorry. So we're going to give you a little bit of time between now and the end of the meeting to consider that. Then overwhelm me with nominations, please. So we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, Catherine, you are still president. Oh.
I don't know why, though.
Our vice presidents are Carl Burling, Damon Forsyth and myself. Sonia's treasurer. And our general committee is Adrian Adrianson, Drew Blair, Ron Bonfra and Sam Hood, Simon Hunt, Fiona Lovelock and Donald Webster. Thank you to all of you for standing again. It's a huge relief to witness some people in support. And our immediate past president is Phil Thomas, who's unable to be with us tonight.
Do we want to take nominations now? Is there anyone?
Do you have any thoughts?
Any thoughts about
the person sitting next to you near Melbourne?
Or anyone else that you could think of that you should nominate? Who is that?
Michael Webster.
Oh, yeah.
Any position in particular, or?
General would be fine.
Yeah, I hear there's a president.
That'll be the next one. Sign the forms. And I'll second him.
So who nominated, please?
She did.
Oh, yeah.
I could see him.
Oh, God.
Yeah, put me on. Yeah. Thank you, but.
Richard.
So I'd like to offer a vote of thanks to our committee who in this last year have taken our club through waters that we've never seen before, and Lord knows what's going to happen next in the next few months, but thank you very, very much. I know from being on the committee that the number of hours that you have to put into it and sacrifice and everything, so thank you very much. I think you guys are doing an awesome job given the environment that we're in, and yeah, good on you. Go for it. Thanks.
Do you want to sort that out?
I'll sort that out later.
Okay. All right, we'll move along to item 8. So next is the appointment of Heritage Fund Guardians and Treasurer of the Heritage Fund. The special general meeting in April 2009 established the role of the Guardians of the Heritage Fund and appointed 4 Guardians who retire at each AGM. The Guardians over the past 12 months have comprised of 2 life members, currently Bernard Smith and Robin Dallas, the immediate past President Phil Thomas, and the President, myself. Mike Wardle is willing to continue as Treasurer of the Fund. Bernard Smith and Robin Dallas as life members have agreed to be the life member Guardians of the Heritage Fund. Phil Thomas as immediate past President and myself as the President will fulfil the other 2 positions of the Guardians. Could we please have someone nominate that the Guardians of the Heritage Fund until the club's next AGM be life members Robin Dallas, Bernard Smith and the immediate past President Phil Thomas, President Catherine Gaffer and the Treasurer Mike Wardle.
I'd like to do that on behalf of my dad.
Okay. Have we got a seconder?
Strong TV.
John, Tipley. Is there any discussion on this? I'll make a discussion point on this. So this was started in 2009. and that's quite a long way away from now. So we're going to have a close look at whether this is still fit for purpose, whether we still need to continue having the Heritage Fund, because there's $255 or something in the fund. It's actually in our constitution, so it's not that easy just to change it. So we'll be calling a meeting sometime in the next few months to discuss with the Guardians how they want to go forward on that one. Guys.
One thought the committee has had is the insurance fund that we've set aside would also be administered not by the committee, but have guardians of our insurance fund. So it may well be that the role of our centenary or heritage fund ends up transferring to the role of looking after our insurance fund, just so that it doesn't inadvertently get spent when it shouldn't be. So that's something we'll be working through this year as well. So next year we may be coming to the AGM and proposing that we have guardians of our insurance fund, because we think it would be a proper way to manage that. So just a heads up for what we might be looking at for next year.
Okay, so any further discussion? Okay, in that case I propose that we, as I said before, nominate the Guardians of the Heritage Fund until the next AGM. And I've already mentioned their names. All those in favour? Aye. Any against? It's carried. So we're on to general business. Now, I suppose I should address the elephant in the room. And I have to start by saying that as a club and as the president, I get no information from PwC. The club is not really even considered in the whole situation because we are not creditors. The only people that PwC are interested in giving information to are creditors. So that's live pass holders, ANZ, MB, who actually haven't been playing the game and going to the creditors meetings. There will be the power companies. And at one point there was the employees hadn't received their holiday pay, but I've spoken with Linda and she assures me that she's got all her holiday pay. So that's really good that they've paid the employees out. So it makes it really hard to comment when they don't talk to us directly. However, I am a life pass holder as well, so I have been getting communications. And I have been contacted by Jason Platt from RSSA, and those guys, while a lot of people see them as life pass holders, which they may be, they are also clubbies. So Jason Platt is at Maringatera. Mike Jones, who's the co-chairman of RSSA, is in Takapuna Club. Robert Krebs, who's the representative, one of the representatives for life pass holders, is an RSC member. So clubbies are there being represented. It's not that obvious. So I can't recommend what any life pass holder should do. I think that's up to everybody to decide for themselves. It is quite hard to wade through all the information. I have been RSSA for a lot of people. They put in a bid for the ski fields because they saw that nobody else was doing it. They really don't want to run a ski field, but there's no option for the continued non-profit option of somebody running the ski field. Obviously MB have railroaded the process, and it seems that unless we go along with what MB is wanting, there is threats that there'll be no ski season this year. So that's as it is. So there's a vote, there's proxy votes out to the life pass holders, and it will be voted on next Tuesday, and I have no idea. So there's going to be a lot of reading and a lot of considering. I haven't had time today to read any of it that came out last night. I'm also going to look to see what RSSA recommend. I'm also going to hear what some of the, I also have been approached through RMCA with the Whakapapa consortium that's looking at buying, well, not buying, you'd hardly call it buying when it's only $1. That group want to talk to clubbies. That's the group that's headed by Dave Maisie. And Dave Maisie's name has been used, he's just a figurehead. I don't think that he's going to be in control. The group behind it is a South Island group. So I think there's only three groups left, and two of them, so there's Pure Tura and there's the South Island office, which is Dave Maisie and Tim, whatever his name, Elwood.
Yeah, excuse me, I've read everything this afternoon.
Yeah.
I'll just stand up on Nick Coots, I'm a veteran member. Now this meeting on next Tuesday, it has three remits. One is for the RSS, the group that this club supports, to take over the company, to maintain the tax-free status, but allow people to put money into the company and get a reward, like a debenture or something, and they're going to honour the debenture to the married people and pay it back at a certain date, normally 2032. But the other two things are, one, the second remit is that they appoint new directors and keep the company going in the meantime, or they wind it up. So you've got the choice of the skiers getting back into having control of the place, and you should vote for that remit on Tuesday, and there'll be an email when you get home, and it's quite a complicated thing, but there are proxy forms, you don't have to go to the meeting, and the meeting in Auckland is at the Oreki Bay, just opposite the Oreki station at 11 o'clock on Tuesday. I'll be going, but this is the chance for the skiers to get back in control and communication, for the iwi to get back in, and also the proposal is that the MBIE writes off their debt and the ANZ writes off its debt, apart from, I think, $1 million. So this is you really need to go home and read all this, but this is the one chance we've got to keep the thing going. And the ski field is out of balance at the moment. You go down to go up, skiers go up to go down, you know. And there's been too much held in the company and not enough other people involved in businesses on the mountain. And we really need to get it back to the way it was, where people didn't have to worry about anything. You didn't have to book an appointment to get up on the lift to get to the club and things like that, you know. And everyone was welcome in the club and they came, you know. And we had all the RAL guys in and had a party for them and did things like that. And if you get back to the basics, then everything will work out, you know. It just needs that. Maybe we need to hold a big ski event at Ruapehu and have the government pour a whole lot of money into it, you know, and beat the Swiss, you know. But the important thing is to, you know, proxy vote or go to the meeting, and it'll be held at the Powder Horn at Owakuni and also in Wellington, I think. So it'll be a sort of like an online meeting like they had before. But it's the one chance we've all got. I've got a life pass, and a life pass is a life pass. I don't care that I'm 77 and I could probably get a free ticket. I don't want to have to go and get a ticket, you know. And I think everyone, you know, I'm quite happy to extend. They want $1,000 plus GST to extend the life passes, and that's cheaper than all the other alternatives. And these South Island and Tura people aren't even mentioned in the meeting at all. So we really need to read that.
They will be mentioned in the meeting. Yeah. This is the preferred option of the government, and the government's backing it. Yeah. And so basically,
anyone with a light pass should vote for remit 1. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm Mike Gideon, I'm an insolvency lawyer.
Oh, nice to meet you, Mike. We've talked on the phone. You can take over.
I've been working with the Ruapehu supporters group and advising them on various options. And Gail's absolutely right, the government has screwed the group a bit. And it's pretty much a done deal, I'd say, that the government option is going to go ahead, much as I dislike that. And one of the ways in which the government's effectively blackmailing the supporters group is that they won't agree to write off their debt, whereas they will write off their debt for the private debt. So at the moment, there are two deals on the table. The supporters group, which is by far and away the best option for the life pass holders. But for it to have any chance of success, it requires the government to write off its debt, and it requires the ANZ to write off its debt. And while they clearly would be prepared to do that for the government-backed deal, they haven't agreed to do that for the RSSA deal. So the chances of it getting, having a chance to fly are pretty remote, to be honest. I will go along to the meeting as a life pass holder and vote in favour of the RSSA deal. But I think we need a plan B as life pass holders. And the plan B has to be the government deal will fly because the government's backing it. The government's actually going to take a 25% shareholding in the new companies. So based on that, they're not going to let it fall over. So the likelihood is that the government bid will succeed, and it's more likely to be successful going forward than the RSSA bid, which doesn't have the same financial backing. The most disappointing thing about the government bid is that it really screws the life pass holders. The unsecured creditors under the government proposal will be paid out in full, and yet that's the unsecured trade creditors will be paid out in full, and yet the life pass holders are getting basically nothing. The deal they proposed for the life pass holders is if you want to ski at Whakapapa, you pay $1,850 to continue your life pass just for Whakapapa. Now, you have to bear in mind $1,850 if you're my age, probably isn't a very good deal. If you're young, it mightn't be a bad deal, but it's somewhat ironic that the voluntary administrators have valued my life pass at $1,000. They've done an actuarial valuation of my life pass at $1,000, and yet I'm going to be asked to pay $1,850 to continue it. So I think our plan B, if we're realistic, and the likelihood is that it will be the government deal that flies, our plan B needs to try to change the proposal where all life pass holders have to pay $1,850. I think we need to go back and try and get a more generous approach to the life pass holders. Something that seemed obvious to me would be the life pass holders have to bear some of the pain. All the creditors have to bear some of the pain. But why should we bear effectively all of it? And the one suggestion might be something like, if the voluntary administrators have done an actuarial valuation of every life pass holder, so mine's $1,000, young people's will be quite a lot more than that, and so that makes a certain amount of sense. I would have thought a more sensible option would be for life pass holders who want to continue their life passes to pay a percentage of their actuarial valuation. So maybe it's 50%, so for me that would be $500. For somebody whose life pass is valued at $3,000, that might be $1,500. That might be more than 50%, but I think we definitely need, as life pass holders, a plan B, given the realistic position is that it's going to be the government proposal that's successful.
Or paying for a debenture.
Well, to me, you've got your life pass, you accept that the company's gone bust, and we all have to contribute to that as life pass holders. It's a question of how much. And I don't see why every life pass holder should pay $1,850 when my life pass is only valued.
One side of the mountain with that.
Yes. And that's only one side of the mountain.
Yeah. The life pass holder should be allowed to do.
Sorry, there's one final feature that I only read this documentation before I came to the meeting because it just came through, so I've only been through it quite quickly. But there's one group of life pass holders who do get a good deal. And you wonder whether there's something been going on behind the scenes, and that's anybody who bought their life pass in 2018 or 19 only has to pay $560 to keep it going. Well, every life pass is the same. It's a life pass is a life pass. I would have thought the actuarial valuation and paying a percentage of that was a much better deal. Now, how we push that, I haven't yet thought about that, but we really need to go to the successful bidder before they put into concrete this proposal where life pass holders have to pay $1,850 each.
Have you seen all the information that came out this afternoon?
Yeah, but I've only just been through it.
Yeah.
I've been,
Well, in the proposal there, it's $1,000, and they said that they couldn't not have, they needed 7 million from the life pass holders, and they expected to get 7,000 of them to pay 7 million.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the proposal is in the next year they will sell 1,600 life passes, and that will bring in 10 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that's the proposal for the Supporters Association.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
This
the
is the
Supporters
washout
Association is that the proposal is the life pass holders pay $1,000 each, which I think is quite reasonable. But the reality is that proposal is not going to be successful,
Well,
because the government's not going to write off its debt to that.
They said today that would be written off.
No, that's what the RSSA has
That's
asked
right.
for.
Yeah. But
They've asked for
this
that.
is the final meeting, the wash-up. This is the end of the Price Waterhouse, and they've got the three options. One's the ASS thing, the other one is appoint new directors and try and keep it going, and the third one is liquidate it. And so if that goes through, then these other people in the South Island, they're not mentioned, they're out of it.
No, sorry, I think you've slightly misunderstood it.
Yeah.
It's called the watershed meeting, which will be held next week. So that's the meeting at which the creditors get
Creditors, that's right. Yeah.
And the life pass holders are creditors, and the value of our life pass holders has been set on an actuarial basis by
1 to 3,000.
PwC.
Yeah.
But are we secured or unsecured?
We're unsecured creditors. The two big creditors are the ANZ and the government, and the bondholders for the Skywalker. The ANZ and the government have agreed to write off their debt if the government's bid is successful. They haven't agreed to do that if the RSSA bid is successful, which means all of a sudden the RSSA bid would be saddled with $30 million of additional debt. That is why it's not going to be successful.
So just to point to that debt write-off, they've agreed to write off the debt on either of the preferred bidders for a shareholding interest in those companies. Both of them are for-profit companies, which means the government will be getting a dividend from the write-off of their debt because they've converted it to equity. Whereas the RSSA, they write off the debt, it is gone, they can't convert it to a shareholding that then produces a dividend because it is a non-for-profit, no dividend company structure that they're looking at. So that I would say is why the government is not looking to write off the debt for the non-profit version.
So at the meeting next week, the watershed meeting, I will be proposing to vote in favour of the RSSA one anyway, despite what I've just said. Because that is clearly the deal that's best for the community. It's the only one that retains the ski field and community ownership. It keeps the ski fields together, whereas the other proposals split the two ski fields, so you're going to have double the overhead structure and management structures. They're not going to be as efficient to run. It'll become a taxable organisation, so there's then going to be a tax expense. The RSSA one would have been by far the preferred deal had ANZ and the government come to the party and written off their debts. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. In the proposal that you've mentioned, the RSSA says they're going to ask for that, but the strong position coming through from the administrators is that the government
What I'd just like to say finally, just shortly, is everyone should go home and read all this stuff, because what I read is slightly different than you're talking about.
How have they addressed the licence issue?
I can see what's in it for the government to write off their debt, because there's some advantages to them, but what's in it for ANZ to write off?
Look, to be honest, I think it's actually an example of a bank behaving properly. I can't see anything in it for the ANZ. I think it's quite generous of them. And it is quite generous of the government to write off its debt too.
Well,
effectively, that's giving $30 million back to the mountain.
Of course, the ANZ.
The thing is, for ANZ, if they keep the debt alive, they're still earning a dividend on it every year, right? So there's no incentive for ANZ to write off or forgive or anything like. As long as that, and there's no need for them to call it in either, which is the most important part. Because if they call it in, then it's instant liquidation, right? But as long as that debt is open and operational and everything, they're still earning interest on it. So why would they wind it up? Why would they call it in?
How have they addressed the licence situation?
Sorry?
If there's two new entities, neither of them has a licence to operate on the mountain. How have they addressed that?
Well, because the government's backing them, so that will happen. The only issue at the moment is some reluctance from the part of the iwi.
Exactly. And that's changed the whole picture in the last week. Iwi have said, no one's talked to us and we're not going to grant concessions unless we agree with the deal. And we don't like the way NBIE, it says bulldoze over the top of it and down above us. So don't write Iwi off.
It's still up in the air, but the reality is the RSSA one is unlikely to be financially viable if those two big
Well,
things.
none of them financially viable. If Iwi say we're not going to give you concessions, none of them financially viable.
So just a couple of...
Can I ask questions through the chair?
Yeah.
Are you intending to go to the watershed meeting?
I am, yes.
And how are you intending to vote?
I don't. I don't know, and
well, it's important because I think the club would typically give its proxy to you as our president.
Can I just, that's the point I was going to make. Of course, the only people entitled to vote at the watershed meeting are the life pass holders. The club doesn't get a vote.
The club doesn't have a proxy.
The club doesn't have a proxy.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait and see what RSSA. So RSSA are trying to be like the counter, right?
Yes.
So they are looking at all the information now, and I don't know, they had wanted to employ an insolvency lawyer. I don't know where they've got to with that. I don't
know any.
I've just come back.
Are you an insolvency lawyer or an administration?
Well, I mean, I'm an insolvency professor.
Yeah, okay. So they wanted to employ someone, but they don't have the funds to employ someone. Okay? Yes, Richard?
So the whole reason for going through RMCA is that for decades and decades, DOC, as far as DOC is concerned, RMCA is the only person or the only body that DOC are prepared to listen to, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and DOC are, as far as all of this is concerned, DOC appears to be a little bit of a spent force. So that would indicate that RMC is a little bit of a spent force as well.
Well, so, also, I mean, it came out in the papers tonight that the cabinet signed off on the preferred government deal. So DOC's going to fall into line.
Yeah, DOC's going to fall into line.
That's what I mean.
They're being tapped. Yes, Jim?
Some time ago, some years ago, there was a movement for members who were life pass holders to donate their shares in RAL to RSC, because they weren't getting any dividend anyway, and it might give, if they all pooled them, it would give RSC a bit of clout. Now, I don't know how this has worked out, but can you tell us how many shares RSC holds in RAL?
The share question is irrelevant, Jim, because the shares don't have a voice in the creditor situation.
So the meeting is
creditors
the creditors get to vote on this, not the shareholders.
Yeah. The shareholders themselves don't have a vote because they are not a creditor. They're only a shareholder. So if you buy shares in a company and the company goes bust, your share is gone.
So I was originally, thank you, sorry. I was originally told my share as a LifePass member was worth $1.
Yeah.
Now we understand it's a different value.
Yeah.
What changed?
Well, what changed was that there's what's called the watershed meeting, which is what's coming up next week. That is the crucial meeting at which the company's future is decided. So for that, you have to value your creditors properly, because you get a vote based on the value of your.
It was a nominal.
The first one was just a procedural meeting. It didn't matter.
Okay, it was a procedural.
So the government is potentially going to write off their debt vis-a-vis the two bidders who got by RSCA. But if RAL fails and is wound up, and DOC / iwi whatever are asking for the mountain to be reinstated, some of the initial stuff I read said that it was going to cost $100 million to reinstate, to take all the lifts out, take all the buildings away and all the rest of it, which would fall on the government.
Yeah.
Well, it would fall on RAL, except it'll have no money, so it falls back on the government.
So it would go to DOC,
Yeah.
who are insisting
Yeah.
on this, and
Yeah.
so, I mean, I just can't for the life of me see any logic in any of this, because whether the government supports this or that, or what have you, if this all fails, they're going to fit the bill for $100-odd million. So writing off whatever they are, 20 million, whatever it is just like peanuts to them. So
You can treble that, Donald, because we will all go, all the clubs will go, and they will have to be reinstated. And I strongly recommend that we all resign, because then you have no liability, because you're no longer a club member. So there's no club, the building's there, they would have to take that up as well.
yeah, quite true, John. Quite true.
In the, cash, in the thing in that you all haven't read, we've got cash flows and forecasts going out till 2035. They've got groups of people who want to put money in, who don't want the interest on it. And they've got one guy that's going to take a whole slice of it for himself and not want anything. And you really need to read that. I think, once you've read the whole thing, it's a really good package they're putting forward, and I don't think the government will get the approval of the iwi, and I think that Kerry Ellen is changing the tune a bit, and if you really just need to read everything, and you'll get a much clearer picture, because it only came out, I only read it at between 4 and 5 o'clock, and it took me an hour.
All it needs is for iwi to lodge an injunction against the opening of the next season, and everything's history. And they're quite within their rights to do that, because they feel they have equal shelter and everything. So yeah, it's
right. So all I'm suggesting is that for those of you who think the RSSA one is the best deal, vote for it.
Yeah.
I'll be voting for it personally. But have a plan B, because I suspect, remember, all the life pass holders may vote for the RSSA one, but we're worth only, I don't know, 20 million or something in total. The ANZ and the government alone are worth more than that. So, and to carry the RSSA deal, you need 75%. 50% by value, 75 by number, or the other way, I forget which. So the chances are the RSSA deal will not carry. The government one would then become the default position, and so we definitely need, as life pass holders, a fallback position, which has to be to try to negotiate down the $1,850 fee to maintain our life passes.
But like iwi support is crucial to all of this, because iwi are the only body in the whole landscape that have the appreciation that it's more a matter of just skiing. It's more about like providing employment and cultural development and tourism development and everything for the whole region.
I've also heard that not all the iwi are on the one side.
Okay, can I take three more questions, 3 more comments, questions, that one, and this one, and then we'll wrap it up because we can see this. Okay, all right, over here.
I just wanted to say that there's a Facebook page for all the life pass holders where they're all congregating and commenting. The advice today, and that's run by these guys you're mentioning, Robert Krebs. The advice today was don't vote yet, because I can't remember his name, Mike was in discussion, is in discussions with them too. Don't vote yet, and then if you have to do it by proxy now, then assign your vote to Robert Krebs or one of those guys that you said.
Or you can assign it to me if you want. Now, Bernard.
So that was really important. I just think strategically, if the life members vote the RS one, and that goes down, and a big majority of the life pass holders are that way, the other deal that gets passed, the government one, they're reliant upon life pass holders making the payment. if they're sitting there viewing, most of the life pass holders are saying, we're not going to, that's going to give the leverage to be able to say, you've got to have a better deal for life pass. So the block of life pass holders have got to be in one thing to be able to.
But we have been threatened with, if you vote that way, this Curry Allen, then there'll be no ski field. If you stymie it, if the life pass holders all vote the other way and the whole thing doesn't get passed, then.
But the government are going to get their deal because they've got the numbers. But if they're sitting on their side of the fence and they can see they're still relying on those life pass holders to front up their 1,800 or whatever.
That's right.
Then there's a bit of leverage to come and say 1,800 shouldn't be.
Yeah. Okay. That's one here.
I guess the sort of counter view is that we are the Ruapehu Ski Club.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking as a ski club member who is not a life pass holder. We are not the Ruapehu Alpine Lips Life Pass Holders Association.
True.
So I'm hoping that the committee will take off their life pass holders hats and think about what is the best strategy for us as a club, rather than just simply for the life pass holders.
We'll see.
Yeah, and so that's kind of why I don't really want to be telling people what to vote, because
it may well be, and I don't know what it is, but
yeah.
It may well be that the best option for the club is not in the best interest of the life pass holders.
No,
but we need to think about what is best for the ongoing life of the ski field first of all, and us as a club.
Yeah.
The only comment I'd say that is that if both options are going to keep the ski field going, those are both the options the club wants. And the club should be supporting the life pass holders, because life pass holders who have their passes wiped out will not continue to ski at the club. And we'll lose substantial numbers of members, and the club will be in a worse position.
I think we have about, well, when we did the survey, the response to the survey was about, I think, 175 members were life pass holders. Which is,
but the survey maybe not quite really want to answer it, because it was kind of suggested about paying
well, yeah, that was part of it, to find out. Okay, Jim and then Richard, that's all, and then Fiona. Jim first.
Have we got any figures as to how much RAL in the last season has foregone through life pass holders not paying anything? How much would they have got?
Yeah.
How much would they have got if life pass holders had paid the normal?
I think Robert's done something on that, hasn't he?
It is there, you can do it.
Yeah, you can find it. Yeah, Richard.
So ultimately, the best thing that REC and REC Executive can do for its members and those who are life pass holders is to formulate and discuss and work out what is going to be the best option for the club and its members, and then publicise that within the club, and so that we can all vote in a unified manner, and hope that the power of numbers will come through for us. So can we rely on you for that?
Oh, yeah. My shoulders, I don't know if they're that big.
So no. It's not. It's a matter of.
It has to be done before Tuesday. So we will be looking at the RSS option. We've also been approached by not Puretura, the other one, South Island office or whatever. So yes, there's a meeting we planned for tomorrow night with the South Island office. So we'll go and we'll see what they. But there's a lot of stuff. I mean, in less than 4 days, we're going to make a decision on it. So we'll do our best to see what we can come up with, and plan to have something out on maybe a mail out on Monday with some information if we can.
I think proxies need to be in.
Well, if the club.
Can I just say that if the one thing I want to say is when you read through, I just read the cover letter. If you're doing it online or postal, it has to be in by 11 AM on Sunday. So you've literally got tomorrow, the next day and Saturday to make a decision and get it in, and unless you attend in presence on the Tuesday. So That is the one thing I
Yeah, I would ask everybody to read
Yeah,
the
read
documents
the
for
documents
themselves.
Yeah.
Think obviously with the club in the back of your mind, but everybody has to do what's best for them.
Yeah.
I think, can I make that, just that comment, I think that's the hard thing, we don't always exactly know what is the best for us, but we all, I think, ultimately want the mountain to continue, for us to continue to access the
So
mountain.
maybe I can
use the
only
facilities.
actually forward you the information that I get, forward you the information that I have at this stage, because yeah, it's too hard to look that far out and say, you know, what is best for the club out there. I mean, RMCA, now that's not RSSA, RMCA, Ruapehu Mountain Club Association have tried to remain neutral on this and tried to, so that they could, what they came up with is that they want to be in a position where they haven't alienated any groups so that they can make a relationship with whichever group decides to own them. And at first I sort of thought, but yeah, it might be that we have to look at it a little bit that way as well. But yeah. Oh, Matt.
I think that we should be leading it, not relying on the RMCA, because like we've got the numbers, you know. So
No,
like,
no, not the club. We haven't got the numbers. I mean, it's the life pass holders. We've got 170 something of them. There's 5,500 on the Save Mount Ruapehu Facebook page. I can't remember what the number is on the life pass holders page, but there's a lot more, you know, and potentially 14,000 life pass holders. Anyway, Matt, I'm going to make you the last one because we could go on all night, and we've already spent nearly half an hour on this. So
I have a simple 4-part question.
Oh,
are you a life pass holder? Are you a club member?
Yes.
Are you going to be voting in the best interests of both of those groups?
Yes.
And can I proxy you my vote?
Yes, you can.
Thank
yes.
you.
Yeah.
And can I say thank you very much for your comments?
Oh yes, thank you, Mike. I had hoped you would be here. We have had talks on the phone. Okay, moving along. Is there any other general business that anyone would like to raise?
Catherine, can I just ask, and when we're talking about, you know, the future of the club now, can maybe you or someone on the committee can shed light on what are the plans for the club, not just in the immediate? What are you thinking? Could you just give us perhaps a little bit of...
We're thinking, can we get through to the end of this year? Okay? Someone said, I was talking to a club member at a work party 2 weeks ago, and he owns the cinemas at Matakana, and he was sort of saying about how tough it's been, and he introduced me to a new business term called hedgehogging, which is where you curl in, you concentrate on what you need to do, and just hang in there and see it through. And I think, didn't Peter Brady say something similar to you, Bernard, that we've just got to get through this, just hang in there, and that's. And unfortunately, while we're doing that, like, also please remember we've all got day jobs to go to, so there's only limited time we can spend. Once we get through this, yes, we can start looking at a plan going forward, because I do think there are some big decisions that we might need to make that we might not like making. Okay?
Can I say something, Catherine?
Yes.
I mean, like, we've got 4 buildings, and they're your buildings, right? They're the members' buildings. They can be used any time, and it always disappointed me how little use we get over summertime.
Yeah.
And it's the last summer where the numbers have been pumped up that actually got us in a far better financial position than what we would have been without those summer numbers. So I mean, and I'm not asking all of you to hop on a bike and race around Mount Ruapehu, but surely you've got children, grandchildren, or whatever that are interested in a weekend or two at either Tura or the Chalet. There's numerous good walks there. And we've been trying to pump this for a long time for summer occupancy rates, and we need to concentrate on that. So if you know somebody, or you feel like a weekend away, go to the buildings.
You know, even if somebody wants to take a
Yeah.
school group, and like, okay, so we push it out a little bit. I know that we've always said that the upper mountain buildings are off limits in the summertime, but if you want to organise, and if you're a member and you want to organise a school class or something, and you can organise it, and you know about the building, and then just organise it, you know?
Jim in the age of 95 walked up to the hut.
Can I make a quick point?
in terms of using in summer. If you make a big trip in the southern half of the North Island, please stop over in
Yes.
Orkney or
Yes,
Sally.
even just to check the
Even
buildings.
if you don't have to, it's fun.
I just, one of my roles is Glacier Hut officer, so I'd like the meeting to just note or report that this year is actually the 100 years of Glacier Hut. And,
It's got overlooked with all this other stuff,
well,
isn't it?
yeah, but it has, I mean, yes, but it's we've overlooked it ourselves from the lodge out the window.
I'll tell you something that Alan Graham told me, emailed Paula and I today. He said the Ruapehu Bulletin today put out an article with Glacier Hut on it and a little article in their little newspaper. So yeah, it's quite timely. And it was I said to him, because it was our pictures off our Facebook post and all the wording out of off the website which Alan had written, I said, well, how do we feel about this? Should we feel, I guess we should feel flattered. And he said, I'm fine as long as it's positive, information. So
we should get it out in the media, really.
So I just encourage anyone to go and have a really good look at it, because I can remember.
And the key is in the lodge. It's hanging on the notice board. So I mean, if we have a good season, I was thinking that we could put flags outside and we could leave it open during the ski day, and then it could be closed in the evening, so people could just, when they're going past, they could go and even, even we had a sign saying I'm 100 years old. Come and have a look.
Can I just?
Yes.
Maybe because I know you're trying to close the I just want to, as the newest committee member, I'd like to propose a vote of thanks to this team for their courage and their determination to represent us in the best way that they possibly can through what is obviously an existential time. We're in the shit. And you guys have stood up and said, we'll do what we can do.
I've got a shovel and spin.
I just want to thank you for your hard work, and thank you for the leadership, and thank you for what you do.
Okay, so is there no further general business? No. Okay. Okay, there being no further business, I declare the meeting closed.
Simon, do you want to be secretary treasurer? It can be a combined role.
I will give you the same answer I gave the people in the meeting at work.
And cheers, we've forgotten to elect the committee. Okay, so can I please propose that the committee members as stated be elected for the 2023 season? Can we have a second?
Yeah, Judy.
Can we get a second for that?
Yes.
Right. Thank you. All those in favour?
everybody.